Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. قال تعالى في محكم آياته وآخر كتبه يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما صدق الله العظيم. أعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله وكفى بالله شهيدا. بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة وجاهد في سبيل الله حق جهاده حتى أتى اليقين. اللهم صل وسلم وأنعم وبارك على أفضل البشر وخاتم الأنبياء ورحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمدا وعلى آله وأهل بيته وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد. Dear sisters and brothers, may Allah's peace, His guidance, His protection, and His forgiveness be with you and with all your loved ones in all three phases of this life. Today's prologue, my respected sisters and brothers, we will study ayah number 4 and may come to ayah number 5 if we have time left of the fourth chapter of Qur'an. Chapter An-Nisa means the women. Most of the things discussed in this are about marriage, inheritance, divorce, dower, and treatment of spouses towards each other, and orphans. Two things are very essential, my respected sisters and brothers, that we will discuss in today's prologue. For the legal and moral survival of a community of believers, there are two things which are very, very essential. Number one, a comprehensive law, which is for the legal and moral survival of the community. And the comprehensive law is already framed by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and practiced by Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The religious leadership, the other point is the religious leadership that can teach, and the government that justly enforce the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on individuals and on community. Unfortunately, we are as people unaware of Quranic legislations, and people in leadership enforce law upon poor and downtrodden, while the rich and resourceful make their own laws. This is everywhere. I'm not pointing towards one particular country or anything, because we are all like that. The so-called political and majority of religious leadership call themselves Islamic, but in practice, they barely have any comparability with Islamic legislations. That regrettable hypocrisy, my respected sisters and brothers, causes a great harm to overall life of the community. The greatest harm is the destruction of our family life and our relationship and the future generations. When battered women or men reach out to the clergy, there are both. There are battered women. The number of battered women is very high, but there are battered men also. When they reach out to the clergy and seeking advice, a majority of the advice the men get is to get another wife. And women are advised to have patience and Allah would send them to paradise. The question is why either one of them are living in a miniature hell here, and how can we help? What can we do to help? That solution is not there. It is just either go get another wife, or in case of men, if they are better, if they are not being treated well by their spouses, then they are supposed to just go out, get another spouse, another wife. For women, it is just to have sabr. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. We have studied in earlier ayat that the husband and wife are the nucleus and the cornerstone of human culture. Neither the husband nor the wife is authorized to do whatever they want against the orders of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At every stage of our life, the divine law influences our life and lifestyle. And that is the purpose of all divine revelations which Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent towards the humankind, from Adam alayhi salam till Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My respected sisters and brothers, parents' behavior and lifestyle leaves lifelong impression on their offspring. The marital law is the most important and the most far-reaching of all social laws, and lawlessnesses in marriages affects the community at large. Quranic marital laws are based on foundation of Allah's order of equality, peace, and justice between genders. It provides clear, comprehensive, and perfect understanding of roles and responsibilities for husbands and wives. Even guides in matters before getting into a marital relationship. Unfortunately, our behavior, lack of knowledge, and lack of practice of Quranic injunctions, most of the parents and the majority of the clergy fail to provide sufficient guidance, and the cultural practices and customs of arrogance takes over. Our lack of knowledge and practice continues to ruin our morals, our understanding of obligations, and ultimately our future generations, and we keep shifting blames everywhere but at ourselves. Accepting our family traditions without merit and cultural customs of communities we choose to live in, it consequently affects the true marital relationship, the true peaceful marital relationship. Divorce is looked upon as a horrible thing and a stigma which is avoided even if it becomes imperative, just to save face, even if it results cowards acts of abuse, which is far worse than divorce. Maybe there is a fear that if I leave this one, the next one will beat me up, For in case of men, the fear that no, just hang on to her, no matter what I do to her, she just keeps taking it. Parents and clergy do not know about prenup mutual agreements. Even if serious mutual dislike develops, the man still holds on to wife to punish and take advantage of her until she pays something to free herself from the marital bonds. Husband worshipping in all matters is regarded and is taught, and we see it with our own eyes in our families, in our parents, elder brothers and sisters, is taught and regarded as a source of pride and moral, and even sold as a religious duty for wife. Fear of social disapproval, gossips, and blame game keeps her in a marriage in the most deplorable circumstances. In fear of divorce or after husband's death, we consider a moral duty for the wife to live for the rest of her life as a widow or a divorcee and not remarry. We call ourselves Muslims and followers of the Prophet, peace be upon him, only as a verbal utterance. The Prophet, peace be upon him, married a noble lady who was 15 years older than him, and she was a widow and she had children from her previous marriage. and we consider marrying a widow or divorced lady a shameful act to do. Men continues to look for richer, younger, more attractive women to show off to others. While the parents insist on following the culture, some among the new generations, born and educated in the West, has better knowledge and better understanding of the Quranic injunctions, which teaches that women have the same right upon men as the men have upon them. Men's one degree of advantage is because they are the protectors and providers to women. Because of our ignorance, a section of Muslims believe that the marital problems have stemmed from the deficiencies in the Islamic law, which is not true. Islamic law are the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The provision of glorious Qur'an offer protection to husband and wife both. And in cases of transgression by either one of them, husband or wife, Allah provides restitution of their rights through fundamentals of equality, fairness, and justice. Muslim marital laws should be learned, understood, and taught and enunciated. People need to know. It is the duty of the clergy not to take Islam as a profession. It is the duty of the clergy not to take Islam as a profession, but an opportunity to build a better future generation. They need to be aware of the present day circumstances, necessities, and present the comprehensive Muslim marital law which Quran ordains that could solve the complexities of the marital problems facing the community everywhere, east, west, north, and south, in all directions, up and down too. As parents, we should educate ourselves and remove the draconian customs that we follow and the concept from our culture and our customs. Prenup agreements need to be made a part of mutual understanding to marry. And these written terms and conditions need to be made a part of marital contract. Only then we will understand the spirit of the Islamic law and the law of the countries where we choose to live and call it home, can work hand in hand, recovering issues of marriage, inheritance, divorce, and related matters. Dear sisters and brothers, some of the masajid are running an Islamic court. I was told by one of the imam, which is a prayer leader himself, that we have an Islamic court and we do hearing and everything and we look at evidences. Islamic court? Who are you? Without having a clue of legal requirements and the laws of the land and even laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how we treat each other, knowing that we are taking the law out, the police out, and we are sitting there as Islamic court and deciding things. The objectives of the law, its principles and its mandates are handed down by Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The practices of the Prophet, peace be upon him, his companions, and in the opinion of great scholars are widely available. We don't need an Islamic court unless in an Islamic country. That's a totally different story. Those things are widely available, but we choose to follow our cultural practices and our draconian customs. The combination of those legal provisions will enable us to solve our marital issues and avoid moving in the wrong direction where everybody gets hurt. Our ignorance is at a level that Muslims only know one mode of giving divorce, pronouncing 3 divorces all at one time. It is not allowed in Islam. While the glorious Quran ordains something totally different. Even the authorities in Muslim countries write the divorce deeds as 3 simultaneous divorces. Subhanallah. Shame on them. According to Islam, that is a deviation and a serious sin that leads to a host of legal complexities. If we know that a single pronouncement of divorce serves as a warning, then the reconciliation before the expiration of the prescribed time, which is written in Quran and explained in Sunnah, the marriage remains and a reunion could be possible and it may work out. The prenup agreement and following the laws of Allah could save many marriages. It is most important that justice should be practiced at the grassroots level of our homes, our individual family homes. It is the family home that the children are brought up. If justice, affection, fairness, and peace are not practiced between married couples, we cannot find it in the future generations, and the society at large suffers the consequences. Dear sisters and brothers, today's first ayah outlines the initial legal provision for women. It gives every woman a God-given personal right to her dower gift at the time of marriage. In the days of arrogance and in the early days of Islam, a majority of the parents and guardians of orphans used to undermine women's right of dowry. Some used to take her dowry themselves and spend as they wanted. Just like if they have sold a personal piece of property. Some guardians would give girl in marriage to someone and the other party give another girl in return to the other guardian. Unfortunately, it is still practiced in so-called Muslim communities. If woman is exchanged for another in a deal between two guardians or two parents, and the interest of the well-being of both women is completely ignored or even not even known by the parents. It is just like a barter trade, my respected sisters and brother, trading the commodities. You give me this much wheat, I'll give you this much rice. That type of marriage is completely forbidden in Islam. Marriage is a unity between two souls on the basis of rights, free choice, fairness, and justice. The dowry gift belongs to the woman and she should receive it herself, not her parents or guardians. It requires that the dowry be specified so that the woman can claim it as her own, and it should be treated as a religious obligation. Islam further requires the husband to pay it willingly to his wife as an obligation upon him before the consummation of marriage. If he does not have all of it, then a greater portion, whatever he can afford of it, must be paid, and the rest of it should be paid thereafter. Relations between the married couple must be based on fairness, free choice, mutual respect and care. No screaming, shouting, and affection without pressure or duress from either side. Islam removed all prior practices of mistreatment in matters related to marriage and dowries, but unfortunately a considerable majority of Muslims continue to practice the same and even worse. Some of us believe that the dowry is paid out of the inheritance. Most of the people, out of the inheritance when the husband dies. How about if she dies first? How about if she dies and husband has not paid her dowry? Who is he going to pay that dowry to? It was her right, not her parents. If husband didn't pay the greater portion of the dowry before the consummation of marriage and the rest of it as soon as possible, and 25 years later, after the marriage, he dies, what would be the value? This is another question in prologue. What would be the value of the money which was supposed to be 25 years ago today? Islam preserves a woman's right to exercise her exclusive authority over the money, property, her dignity, and possessions. Islam established the marital relationship with a strict legal condition with mutual care and affection from both sides as a fundamental rule in our shared life. The next ayah, ayah number 5 of 4th chapter, legislate the handling over orphans' monies and properties to them once, and handling and giving back the properties to them once they reach the age of better financial decision making. Although the property belongs to orphans, the guardians and the community leaders should use sound judgment and invest orphans' property for legitimate growth so the orphans and even the community could benefit from it, job creation or whatever, a small business. The underage orphans without the ability to look after their property wisely should not be given control over their property. Their rights of ownership remain intact and cannot be taken away from them. The guardian should administer it in fairness and justice, either himself or appoint somebody trustworthy and capable to administer it. The principle of mutual care and obligation to Allah, the family, and the community in general must be fulfilled. Orphans under the guardianship have the right of adequate maintenance. These are in the prologue of ayah number 4 of Quran. How many of ayah number 4 of 4th chapter of Quran? How many of us have heard this before? Very few. Orphan under the guardianship has the right of adequate maintenance, food, medical care, education, clothing out of their property or the income from the property if they inherited any. If not, then guardian, whoever takes their responsibility, should provide them all those things and treat them with kindness. Dear sisters and brothers, let's remember that our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, and many other prophets were orphans. Many other prophets were orphans. There are other ayats in the glorious Quran about the fairness, care, and concern towards orphan and all relatives. Now the recitation of today's ayah, followed by the translation and then the exegesis of these two ayat, if we can get to the 5th ayah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وآتوا النساء صدقاتهن وآتوا النساء صدقاتهن نحلة فإن طبن لكم عن شيء منه نفسا فكلوه هنيئا مريئا ولا تؤتوا السفهاء أموالكم التي جعل الله لكم قياما وارزقوهم فيها واكسوهم وقولوا لهم قولا معروفا. صدق الله العظيم. The translation of these two ayat: and give to the women you marry their bridal gift, meher, graciously with a good heart. However, if they willingly give back any part of it to you, then enjoy it without fear of any harm, as Allah has made it lawful. And do not give your property to the weak-minded, which Allah has made a means of sustenance for you, but provide them with food from it, clothe them, and speak to them with words of kindness, compassion, and justice. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. The tafsir of the first ayah, وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نَحْلًا. So let's take that portion first. And give to women you marry their bridal gift with a good heart. However, if they willingly give back any part of it to you, then take it and enjoy it without fear of any harm, as Allah has made it lawful to you. Dear sisters and brothers, before Islam, men used to marry women without dowry or without dowry gifts. There was no dowry fixed. They would just take her. Sayyidina Umar and the qualified opinion of Qadi Ash-Shuraih said that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anh and Qadi Shuraih rahmatullah alayhi said that if a woman gives a part of her bridal dowry to her husband and later reclaims it from him, then he is bound to pay it back to her. He is bound to pay it back to her. As she gives, she can also take. To return either the whole or part of the marriage gift is up to the bride, and she cannot be forced to return by anybody. She cannot be forced to return it to her husband or to his father or mother-in-law or mother-outlaw or whatever. She cannot be forced to do it. The dowry is supposed to be according to the current financial status and earning potential of the groom. The family or the other relatives cannot set the dowry amount without free will and consent of the woman who is getting married. And they cannot set a lower amount than the other dowries of the family. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas in his tafsir of this ayah said that in gift to the women you marry a generous free dowry gift that you have the ability to afford as an obligation from Allah upon you. An obligation from Allah upon you. However, if they on their free will, without duress or pressure, remit to you a part of their dowry, then you may take it. There is no blame or sin on you if you do so. Dear sisters and brothers, Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talha radiallahu anh reported from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anh that the Arabic word nahla refers to the dowry. Nahla refers to the dowry. An-nahla refers to the dowry gift. Sayyidina Imam Al-Qurtubi, Ibn Jarir Al-Tabari, and many other scholars said that Islam emphasizes and warns men about women's right, that when some wives at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and after that wanted to give a portion of their dowry in love and affection to their husband, they refused to take it because they were afraid of it. Because this is her right. Why should I take it? Even if she is giving it to me, I shouldn't take it. At that time, when they refused to take it, as it was her exclusive right to have, this ayah was revealed, and it was made permissible that if a woman on her own free will gives you a portion of that dowry, then you should take it. Muhammad ibn Ishaq narrated from Az-Zuhri that Sayyidina Urwa quoted al-Mu'mineen Sayyida Aisha radiyallahu anha saying that nihla means obligatory dower gift. Sayyidina Ibn Zayd said in Arabic, nihla refers to obligatory and agreed upon amount or commodity. So Allah commands, do not marry unless you give your wife something that is her right and two of you agreed upon. Neither marry a woman without the required dowry, nor make false promises about the dowry gift. The man is required to pay dowry gift to his wife with a good heart, just as he gives any gift with a hidden agenda, without a hidden agenda behind it. If the wife gives him a part of it or all of her dowry with a good heart, without pressure and duress, her husband is allowed to take it, but it becomes lawful to him. This ayah takes up a particular right of women to receive dowry, marriage gift. The ayah aims to remove injustice practiced, my respected sisters and brothers, by the people in the days of arrogance, and unfortunately it is still practiced by a considerable majority of Muslims living today. Addressing the husbands and the guardians, the Holy Qur'an mentions وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِحْلًا, and give the women their dower. The ayah ordains that paying the agreed upon dower is husband's obligation and receiving it is wife's right. And all obligatory rights must be discharged gladly in good faith, not as a burden, without holding any part of it. The ayah warns husbands using pressure or make the wife forego and forgive her dower. It is left upon the wife if she willingly leaves some part of it on her own will. The pressure the wife by anybody from her side or from his side or himself is not lawful for anybody unless willingly given by the right holder, by the title holder. That's her right, and she holds the right. No, she is the title holder. It is one of the fundamental rules of Islamic jurisprudence, my respected sisters and brothers, that even the smallest portion of whatever belongs to somebody, no matter how little it is, minuscule quantity, belongs to somebody else, is not lawful for you, not lawful for anybody, unless willingly given by the person himself or herself. Most women are not aware that they have a right to set and receive their dowry They are told that the dower is paid when the husband dies. If women do not receive their dower, they have a right to ask for it. Not ask for it, I should say demand it. Unfortunately, the common practice among a considerable majority of Muslims is that following the death of mother or father, they are also husband and wife. So following the death of mother or father, the sons, it's especially the stronger one, those who don't need money, they take over the whole property and do not give their women a share of it, to their sister, to their mother, to their wives, to their, whoever. They would not. Or even to their own daughters. The women know that they are not going to get it because they know who they are dealing with. Their shares, they would never see it under that cultural situation, because it is every household's story. And the length of beard or the type of clothes or hijab and this and that does not make any difference. If we don't follow Islam, then we should stop making claims. That's where the hypocrisy walks in. The women know that they are not going to get their share under the cultural situation from the inheritance, and they simply go along and do not demand any financial demands on anything. Those who are these people, the men in the family, they are the absconders. They are the usurpers that they take and absorb and hide and take away the women's rights. This is how our toxic culture, my respected sisters and brothers, of usurping people's right. What is people's right? Huquq al-ibad. There are two things in faith, two elements in faith that completes our belief system. One is huquq Allah, and the other one is huquq al-ibad, rights of Allah and the rights of people upon us. And customs of arrogance is widely accepted. The usurping people's right and custom of taking people's customs of arrogance is widely accepted and practiced even today, even in educated families. This is not right, my respected sisters and brothers. If you see it, or if you know it, or if we practice it, we should stop it and bring people back to what Qur'an says and what Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam has practiced all his life. If they calculate, people, my respected brothers and sisters, people, those who give and take bribes or interest, do so after a good deal of calculation. Very good deal of calculation. What would be my next payment? When this will be expiring? It's all written down and everything else, right? And many apparent gains from it. Oh, I can take a line of credit from it, and I can do this. I can borrow money to pay this off, and then I can cheat from here and pay that off. If they calculate, they are so religious in the mind of some people. If they calculate the rewards of following Allah's orders in giving women their due right, they will be surprised. Women what? Your mother, your sister, your wife, and your daughter. You will be surprised we will be surprised at our own foolishness of losing our hereafter for the minuscule or meager gains, miserly gains of this mortal and valueless life. If we calculate exactly as we calculated the interest, we gladly take, huge house. If you can't, it's not your house. Don't say I live in, that's my house. That's not your house. That's somebody else's house. You are making payments for it. And, miss 2 or 3 payments, you'll find out whose house it is. There are a lot of proverbs in Arabic language. Mudrij lagad sharshaf. That, you should not extend your legs, spread your legs, or, flatten your legs, or put your legs out more than the sheet which is covering it. If your sheet is shorter, don't spread your legs out. Your legs will be out, right? So that's not your house. It's not a matter of pride to live someplace like that. Sayyidina Qatada ibn Ziyad and ibn Jurayj said, husbands are directly addressed in this ayah. Allah commands them to pay the dowries as a gift to their spouses before they marry them, or a greater part of it if they cannot at that time, and the rest paid later. The guardian used to take women's dowry and not give her any of it. This ayah forbids that practice and commands to pay. Sayyidina Al-Kalabi transmitted that in the time of Jahiliyyah, the days of arrogance, when the guardians agreed to give a woman in marriage and she was of the same tribe, they would not give her a dowry gift. If she was from the same tribe, they would not give her a dowry gift because, yes, this is the same tribe. So we are not going to show off to each other. We all know each other, right? But if she was from another clan, from outside this tribe, outside this clan, he would take her on a camel to her husband. The guardian or the parents would take her on a camel to her husband's place and not give her anything of value other than the camel she was riding. That's when the first portion of ayah was revealed. وَآتُوا النِّسَاءَ صَدُقَاتِهِنَّ نِهْلًا. Sayyidina Al-Mu'tamir ibn Sulaiman rahmatullah alayhi reported from his father that the ayah addressed the arrogant practice. The ayah also addresses the arrogant practice of shigar marriages, giving or accepting women without dowries or taking their dowries, and they are commanded to pay them. The ayah indicates that a dowry is mandatory for all women, including slave servant women, agreed upon by all scholars, and there is no difference of opinion in that. The scholars agree that there is no maximum amount to the dowry either, and its minimum depends upon husband's current financial status and the earning potential. So if a woman asks for a $100,000 dowry and the man cannot afford it, or he can afford $100,000 and she asks $6 million, then, take this lady to a psychiatrist. But in the same way, a man accepts it. 6 million, okay, 6 million. And in his heart is, I'm not going to pay her a dime. Then it doesn't make a difference. Then this guy needs to be prosecuted for cheating or lying in a contract. In some Muslim countries and cultures and customs, the husband's side say that they want to establish dowry according to the sunnah of Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My respected sisters and brothers, the question is, are they following any other tradition of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam? In everything else, but now they are being selective in case of the marriage gift. I was asked to officiate a marriage, my respected sisters and brothers, a marriage ceremony, and as usual, I asked questions from both parties and want to see the official marriage licenses issued by the counties, by the government. So we don't have these secret marriages which are against Islam. Marriage has to be announced, not to be kept secret. And this is a common practice. It's a common practice, not only that those who want to get a second marriage or whatever, that they go for it and they offer $200, then the imam says that no, I won't do it less than $300. Subhanallah, trading goats and sheep. I noticed when I was talking to them in that marriage which I was invited to officiate, and I do it for free, I don't charge any money to do the nikah ceremonies and all that. And I make a lot of enemies that way too. I noticed that the toxic so-called Muslim culture and customs in that gathering, that they have rented a very large marriage hall, decorated it to the ceiling. They have DJs standing by, they have bands, they have the dance floor laid out, and they have all kind of roses and beautiful bottles and beautiful, different kind of bottles, not liquor. I would have walked out. They have fine tableware, excellent food, and my jaw was on the floor that the elder from the girl's side accepted a Qur'an as a dower. The dower is to be, according to the earning potential or current financial situation plus the earning potential in the future. But if current financial situation is the guy is a couch potato because the girl he's marrying is a doctor, so he's already in it. That she will make the money, I'll stay here. This couch and that TV, big screen. So then for that reason, if he wants to keep, because I'm not working, so keeps the dower low. No, what is your earning potential? And you chose not to work does not mean that you will not pay the dower. When I asked the wife about the dowry, that, the girl to be, the wife to be, I asked about her dowry, and she did not know anything about it, that how much is her dowry. Since I do not charge any money to officiate weddings or other religious services, I tell them that this is not fair in the presence of both parents and some witnesses, and they need to correct it before I even start the marriage ceremony. I refuse to do the marriage ceremony. A few times, not only the dowry amount, my respected sisters and brothers, and women know it, the wife did not even know, the wife to be did not even know who is she going to get married with. They are told that he is rich and you will be happy for the rest of your life. Even if that is true that he is rich, what if he is not rich in heart and cheap in actions? Why nobody question his parents? Does he want a life partner or a domestic servant? These are questions we need to question ourselves. Failure analysis, without it, we can't. We will be where we are, where Abu Jahl was. We are where Abu Jahl was. And we are continuing, the traditions of Abu Jahl. And we call it our customs and our rituals. The next portion of the ayah says, فَإِن تِبْنَ لَكُمْ عَنْ شَيْءٍ مِنْهُ نَفْسًا. However, if they willingly give back any part of their dowry gift back to you, Allah addresses husbands in this position, in this portion of the ayah. It allows for a bride to willingly give a portion of her dowry if she wants to her husband only, not to his father or mother or the sister or his sister. She can take anything from that house to her sister, his sister. It should be going to his sister. To her husband, for being the owner, she is the owner of the dowry, she can give it to whoever she wants. She has a right to make that decision without duress or force from anybody, including her husband. Sayyidina Qadi Ashurayh said, when a woman gives a portion of her dowry to her husband on her own, she can also take it back from him. Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my respected sisters and brothers, in chapter Al-Maidah, which is the next chapter we will be coming to, very important chapters. Chapter 5, first ayah said, Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, awfu bil uqud. Then there are many other ayat. I quote another ayah from chapter Al-Isra, 17th chapter, ayah 34, and it says, وَأَوْفُوا بِالْأَهْدِ إِنَّ الْأَهْدَ كَانَ مَسْعُولًا. And fulfill every commitment. Indeed, you will be questioned by Allah about your commitments, about your promises you made to people. The Prophet ﷺ said, believers abide by the condition of their contracts. The marriage is a sacred contract, my respected brothers and sisters. It's called Aqd al-Nikah, the contract of marriage. It's a contract. It's a contract with obligation and duties on both spouses, not only on husband and not only on wife. And they need to understand and fulfill their obligation. Since marrying more than one wife is not a religious obligation or a good deed which will take us to the paradise. The husband and wife can negotiate and write terms and condition and expectation from each other before entering in the marriage contract, before entering in the aqd al-nikah, beside other condition such as the husband would not marry another woman, can be written in it. Because this is not a fard. This is not a fard. Marrying another woman is not a fard. It's a very, very, far-fetched concession by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala under certain restrictions and under certain conditions. But it is not a great act that if you do not marry a second wife, you will go to hellfire. But if you do marry a second wife, you will go to paradise. There is no such thing in Islam. We need to take it out of our head that it is a right which man has. It's not a right. Since marrying more than one wife is not a religious obligation, the husband and wife can negotiate and write the terms and condition of expectation from each other before and make it part of the marriage contract, beside other conditions such as the husband would not marry another woman and they would not physically, psychologically, emotionally, verbally, financially, or sexually abuse each other, and in writing stipulate and include those conditions in the marital contract. In the marital contract means in the aqd al-nikah. The dowry must be paid in full or a greater amount of it before the consummation of marriage, and the remainder as soon as honestly possible. The dowry would not be such a meager amount that one cannot get a flat tire repaired. Some of the dowry amounts I hear, and I said, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you under some kind of, psychological medicine or some kind of influence, drugs or something? Is this the amount of marriage you set for your daughter? Or the husband? I ask husbands also, husband-to-be, that this is the amount you are offering this woman? And you want to take her for life? That she cannot even get a flat tire repaired, but should be comparable. The amount should be comparable with the potential, earning potential and financial condition of the husband in all honesty, and not what his or his. Sometime I have heard, seen that we want to give this much dowry to this to our son's wife, to our the daughter-in-law, that we want to give this, we want to set the meher amount of our daughter-in-law in such, and I said, why it is so less, so little? So they say, well, that was the meher of my grandmother. Oh my goodness, where are you, man? Which planet you came from, or which planet you think you are living on? Imam Al-Qurtubi, quoting Sayyidina Ibn Abdul Hakam, said that if the proper dowry for a woman of her class or more than that is set, and she is in writing, and she may reduce her dowry gift also, she may also reduce the amount of her dowry which she is demanding, for a condition in the marriage contract, in the prenup, that the husband would not marry a second wife. Imam Al-Qurtubi quoted that in his tafsir. If he agreed or her conditions, if he agreed to the conditions of her reduced dowry and he breaches the contract, her dowry amount will go back to what she was originally asking for, the higher amount. She can stipulate, if he agreed to the condition and reduces the dowry, then he will be held responsible for breaching a contract which Allah is made witness to. She can stipulate her condition that if he marries another wife without a dire reason, she would have an equal right to divorce this man. No khula. She can ask for an equal right to divorce her husband in prenup agreement and made it a part of the marital contract, aqd al-nikah. And he has to pay her. If he violates the condition, if he breaches the contract, then he has to pay the remainder of the dowry which she reduced for him. And then she can divorce him. Dear sisters and brothers, slavery was part of the days of arrogance. If a man married a servant girl, we have about 11 minutes. If a man married a servant girl, This ayah is the evidence that emancipating her from serving her master, freeing her, emancipating means freeing her, is not considered a dowry because it is not wealth. Some people said that, okay, I'll marry you, I will not give you dowry, but I'll free you, because you were a slave girl, I'll free you, and consider that as a dowry. That was a practice before, in the days of arrogance and early days of Islam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has very strongly condemned that you cannot do that. The last portion of the ayah says, فَكُلُوهُ هَنِيًّا مَرِيًّا. That means, so take it and enjoy it without a fear of any repercussions, because Allah has made it lawful to you if they give you a portion of it. Willingly, not force them. Don't stand on their throat to get the money out of them. The word kuluh, my respected sisters and brothers, actually means to eat it, but not literally means eating in this ayah, but a permission is given to consume and enjoy it in a right manner, in the right thing, in a right manner. A person cannot take the portion of his wife, or what his wife gives him as a gift, a portion of the dowry, $10 suppose, gives it to him. He goes out and bought a bottle of wine or bought some marijuana. He can't do it. He cannot say she gave and Quran gives me permission to go. Fakulu haniyam Maria. No, it is not. The Quran did not give you permission to use that money in the wrong things. It is said that it describes something which is elided, such as a pleasant consumption with goodwill. The Arabic word, my respected sisters and brothers, means Haniyam Maria, means what is rightfully without sin and consumed without difficulty with pleasure. Pleasure of Allah and no difficulty in front of Allah on the day of judgment, and no accountability from it. If it is rightfully given by the wife by her own consent and you used it on the rightful thing, then there is no accountability for it. Sayyidina Imam Al-Qurtubi rahmatullah alayh further said, Haniyam Maria means what is good manner, permissible, and which does not disturb anything, and has a good outcome which would not injure or harm anybody within the marriage or outside the household. It is that if a husband receives something from his wife, he should not spend that on sinful or harmful things. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu an reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said, when a wife gives her husband a gift voluntarily from her dowry without compulsion and pressure, and he consumes it on a rightful thing in the hereafter, Allah will not hold him accountable for consuming from her dowry. Otherwise, consuming from her dowry, it's a sin without her permission. Dear sisters and brothers, that also means that if a husband forces his wife, or without her knowledge and consent takes anything from her dowry, Allah will hold him accountable on the day of judgment. And you can look, each and every one of us can look in ourselves and in our families, and you will find example that how we have used and how little dowry we have set, and how we have used it for our own benefit, or how we force the women to take their dowry. So give it to me, I need it. Though he has many other means and many other things, if he stops doing, then he has enough money to do whatever he wants to spend on, and he doesn't need to take his wife's dowry. A very wonderful example, my respected sisters and brothers, is describing the sanctity and purity of a woman's dower gift in her possession. Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib karamallahu wajh wa radiyallahu anh said that when one of you suffer from an illness, when one of you is suffering from an illness, you should ask your wife for a dirham, whatever it's equivalent to today, for a dirham from her dowry and buy honey with it. From that money, buy some honey and drink it and collect the rainwater and drink that honey mixed with rainwater, and Allah will make it a pleasure and goodwill with that blessed water and remove your suffering, because the source was from rightful means. A woman's dower is a rightful mean, So we got about 5 minutes. Let's move on to the next ayah, ayah number 5. And it says then, and do not give the property of the weak-minded people to the weak-minded people, which Allah has made a means of sustenance for you, but provide them food from it, clothe them, and speak to them kind words. Speak to them in words of kindness and compassion and justice and fairness. Dear sisters and brothers, Sayyidina Abul Ala al-Maududi rahmatullah alayh, in his book Rights and Duties of Husbands and Wife, says that this ayah covers a very wide spectrum of meaning. Before I come to, the olden days, the companions of the Prophet, the first cousin of the Prophet, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu's tafsir from his book of tafsir, Tanwir al-Miqbas min tafsir ibn Abbas. Before I give reference, this is a recent time scholar, Sayyidina Abul Ala al-Maududi rahmatullah alayh, and it says this ayah covers a very wide spectrum of meaning. It emphasizes on the community of the believers that wealth and possessions are the main support of human life of any community. It should not be left therefore at the mercy of those who are incompetent to handle it properly. we are hosed by that virtue. Which one of us is not incompetent? Illa man rahimallah. By misusing wealth, such people might destroy. Misusing wealth. Well, you cannot afford a house. You go buy a house and paying $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 mortgage on it. Didn't you know the mortgage was not supposed to be taken? Didn't you know that living in a rental property is not haram? What can we say? Misusing wealth, such people might destroy the basis of social and economic life and wreck the moral foundation of the family, thus the entire society. The right to private property is not so absolute. If a person is incapable of exercising his right properly, and if he might cause grave social harm by expenditures, then he forfeits his right to that property. It can be taken from him as a trust and run, and he can continue, and if for his rightful expenditures and living expenses and everything else and clothing and food, he can draw from it. And if that trust makes money, then that is his money, but it's being administered by somebody. It's not that a rich guy comes out in the community and destroy everything that nobody can afford. Nobody can afford. There is no affordable housing anywhere left in America. In most of the major cities, there is no more affordable housing. Garages are sold for $2 million, $3 million. Garage, it's just the garage of 20 feet by 20 by 30 garage is sold for $3 million. You know why? Because somebody have money and he can destroy it. And he can take it, and then another one who needs it, and he will come and take it from him, and the other guy will make money. The right to so necessities of such a person's life should always be provided for. But so far as the exercise of his proprietary rights is concerned, due restriction should be placed on it in order that his power is restrained from spending those resources and brazen disregard of the disregards for the dictate disregard for the morality, collective welfare of the community, and economic interest of in that community where he lives. According to the directive embodied in this ayah, my respected sisters and brothers, anyone who entrusts his property to someone else's care should satisfy himself that the later person, the person who is taking care of your property management company, is capable of making a good use of it and get you something out of it. I think we should stop right here. أقول قولي هذا فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. We will make dua, but before that, I like to everybody to thank everybody for joining this program, and please invite and share these presentations with others. It has been a long time that we have not thought about Quran, and just look at the circumstances we are in and apply it as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book is till the day of judgment and thereafter. And whatever comes after the day of judgment, Allah's rules will continue to apply. His dominion expands and not contracts. So the second thing is that these are free presentations. I do not ask and I do not accept any money in any of my religious programs and services. So please share it with others. The purpose is, I'm a selfish man. The purpose is my own grave, nothing else. I don't need nothing from anybody for these programs. So inshallah, we will make dua and we will end the program today. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma anta salama minka salama tabarakta wa ta'alayta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma inna laka alayna huquqan kathiran fima baynana wa baynak wa alayna huquqan kathiran fima baynana wa bayna khalqik. Allahumma ma kana laka minha faghfirhu lana wa ma kana li khalqika fatahammalhu anna wa aghnina bihalalika an haramika وبطاعتك ماسيتك أمن سواك يا واسع المغفرة. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وقنا عذاب القبر وقنا عذاب الحشر وقنا عذاب جهنم وادخلنا الجنة مع الأبرار برحمتك يا عزيز يا غفار يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا كريم يا حي يا قيوم لا إله إلا أنت برحمتك استغيث يا ربنا. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. والفاتحة. الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. Thank you for joining us. Inshallah, see you same place, same time next week. Inshallah, the ayah, we'll continue the ayah number 5 and then may go into ayah number 6. Salamullahi alaykum wa rahmatuhu wa barakatuh.